Hello and welcome to Webhack Wednesday. I'm Martin Beebe.
And I'm Martin Kern.
And today we're going to be talking about a Gulp plugin. A Gulp plug-in.
A Gulp, yeah.
Plugin. We've talked about Gulp before in episode 2 of Webhack Wednesdays.
Yes, we have.
So
we called that one, I think we just called it Gulp.
It was just called Gulp, yeah.
It's a good name.
Yeah, but the link to that is in the show notes, which is just down here. And if you're listening to this in audio, it's aka.ms/WHW02.
Yeah. Because
see the mental effort that took.
It's because that doesn't exist yet. You'll figure that you're gonna set that off.
I am going to set that.
Finish this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it means
don't ruin the illusion, Martin. Don't ruin the illusion.
It means also you like for the geeks like me, you have to do that for every episode now.
I know.
You've set a
I actually
precedent.
did naming conventions. You've got a real problem with naming conventions.
Yeah,
like Martin had a real go at me that the videos when you download Webhack Wednesday episodes, we weren't following a naming convention.
No, sorry about that for those for the early episodes.
Yeah, we now do follow a very strict naming convention, but we previously weren't.
You say that, but you've missed out the underscores.
No, you can't. So the system doesn't allow underscores. Okay. Yeah, it was a requirement. But I'm a little bit upset now that I've done WHW02. What happens if we do 100 episodes?
Yeah.
It's
a bit like the Millennium Bug all over again, isn't it?
I think we'll be fine, won't it? Because it's 0. It'll be fine. That'll be fine. 100 is not the same as 001. It just looks a bit. And I know that's your.
I won't like that.
Yeah, you won't like it. But if we're still at episode 100, we'll come to that problem, won't we?
That'd be a good problem.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what are we talking about today?
I can't remember.
A Gulp plugin.
Yes, it's built by our Canadian counterparts.
Canadian.
Yep.
Oh. Let's go to Canada.
That was quite delayed.
Yeah, that's okay.
I waited for that. Yeah, but yeah. So the Canadians do amazing things like picturesque scenery.
Yeah, they do.
Celine Dion, Justin Bieber.
Mountains, fantastic.
Justin Bieber also like my name on Twitter is the Biebs. Now that's not a problem in England. Like no one ever goes, oh, you're stealing that from Justin Bieber. But in Canada or America, whenever I go there and people say, what's your Twitter handle? And I say the Biebs. Yeah, they just think
this guy thinks he's
Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the Justin Bieber of Microsoft, but if you want to call me that, that's fine.
He actually does think he's the Justin Bieber of Microsoft.
I don't. Well, maybe. Yeah. I'm quite happy with that. Some people call me the Cliff Richard of Microsoft, and that used to be cool, but that's not so cool anymore. If you're American, then that won't make any sense to you. But if
we'll just call you the Martin Beebe of Microsoft.
Yeah.
How about
okay,
that?
cool. I'm fine. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so
what? First of all, what is a Gulp plugin? I mean, so. We went through Gulp and we did look at some plugins, but it might be worth just reiterating what a plugin actually is.
Gulp is a little tool which you can use to it's a bit like a build tasks thing, and you can run over your code with these Gulp tasks and do things and manipulate files and make changes to files and do things that automate things that you don't want to have to do every single time. So Gulp has a number of different features built into Gulp, which you can use. But there's also a really rich array of plugins, which and a plugin is basically a single task which will do something with your files or something with your build process. And
they're written by the community. There's a whole community of Gulp developers out there that write these plugins.
Yes, and this one so happens to be written by Canada. Oh, actually,
by Canada, the whole of Canada. Wow, they're a very collaborative country, aren't they?
Yeah, well, exactly. They're very, very collaborative bunch of guys. But the actual guy is Rami Sayer, which is a technical evangelist at Microsoft.
Okay.
I think he's responsible. He's built a Gulp one and a Grunt plugin for doing this stuff. But yeah, saying it's just Canada is probably less accurate, but more fun.
Yeah.
But he's done a really great job of creating this little plugin. And the idea is that you use this plugin to determine whether or not your website is adhering to various web standards.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's quite straightforward and simple to use. And the idea is that it previously might have been a bit of a pain to go and check your website every time to make sure it was adhering to. And we've talked about these things before with modern.ie and things like that.
So it's kind of things like using up-to-date JavaScript libraries, that kind of thing.
Precisely, all those sorts of things. So we've got a task here, a Gulp task here, a Gulp plugin here, which we're going to be using. Now I'm just going to pick up a website that I was working on recently. This is something which I did for Full Frontal Conference. We did a little workshop full frontal conference. I say that so naturally, but that probably sounds a bit rude to other people. But it's a web conference, or a JavaScript conference actually, down in Brighton in the UK. But we did a workshop the day before. This is just the code from that, and it was just purely the reason that I used that was well, it's
because you're lazy and you didn't
write a demo
scenario.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, like.
Anyway, let's have a look then. What does this? What are we going to do?
So we've got Gulp, the web standards, and kind of the introductory page on this explains exactly how you would use it.
Okay.
And this shows you all of the different features of things that it's going to check. So to avoid browser detection, we talked about that before. Whether you're using responsive design, avoiding conditional comments, incorrect.
So it's kind of best practice stuff as well as actual. So responsive is kind of a thing that you may choose to do or may not choose to do, but it's not necessarily going to break if you don't do responsive.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff as well.
So npm install Gulp if you've not already got it installed.
Yep.
That's going to go away and install Gulp.
So this is an important point. So Gulp is an npm package, and the plugins themselves are also npm packages, aren't they? So npm is the tool that you use to get all this stuff installed and up and running. And
there's a naming convention. You'll be glad to know.
Yes, I am glad to hear about this.
So Gulp plugins have this naming convention where it's Gulp dash something. So they've chosen to use Gulp dash web standards.
Yeah.
So the thing that you do when you want to install this on an npm package is Gulp install Gulp dash web standards, and that'll work. They've added this in the feature, this dash dash save dash dev, which means that this dependency is a dev dependency, and it means that when someone just types in the word npm install, it's not going to bring down those dependencies, the dev dependencies that they might not want. So this is just a way of using in npm or no package manager to just say that this is a dependency, but it's actually just my dev dependency. It's not necessarily
it's not part of the project itself.
Yeah, the project will work without this dependency. Yeah. This is a dev dependency.
Okay, that's good to know as well.
Because obviously most projects will not require this to actually run. So let's just see. Oh, I'm going to use some magical editing stuff here to make this faster. So through the magic of video editing there, that actually took about a minute, didn't it, to do it? Minute and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll be able to tell you when I come to edit it.
Okay.
Hi there. I'm Martin Beebe in the future from the editing suite, and it took 4 minutes and 15 seconds.
So now we have Gulp installed, we can go ahead and install some of the dependencies. So this little line of code is already on that GitHub page.
So I see, Martin, that you've started to use my favourite snippet manager of choice there.
This is purely out of the rush to record this morning that I'm using Notepad.
Yeah.
But actually, VS Code now has a snippet manager, so I should be using that.
We're going to try and get one of our colleagues in to talk about VS Code, aren't we, in a future episode?
Yeah, because there's loads of really goodness in that, and now it's got a snippets manager. We'll start using that, but I'm not using it right now. So as I say, this line of code which I took from the GitHub page, npm install --save -dev space Gulp -web standards. So now we're installing the plugin.
Okay.
Hello, it's Martin again doing editing. That took 5 minutes and 20 seconds in total to download and install, but I cut that bit out for your convenience.
So that takes a little bit of time to install. Once that's installed, we've then got that plugin to be able to use in our project. So if we go back to my screen, I can go and type in here code dot, and that's going to open it up in my browser, in my thingy of choice.
I never knew about that little trick.
What, code dot? Yeah, it's quite useful. It will basically open, if you're in that folder, it'll open that root.
That's cool.
Which is really helpful.
Yeah, there's loads of cool little nuggets about Visual Studio Code. It's one of these things that you just discover a little bit more about every day.
Precisely, yeah. And it changes quite often as well, because there's so much stuff which is being added all the time. So in here, we'll just put a variable for Gulp, which just makes brings in Gulp. So
that's kind
we
of
require
what
it.
A Gulp file rather than just a standard JavaScript file, I guess.
Yeah, and this was this is exactly the same at this point as what you were doing in your original thing, in your original show about Gulp. Web standards equals require, and then we'll do the same there. This one's called Gulp _web standards.
Hyphen web standards.
Hyphen, sorry. I typed right, I said wrong.
Yeah. I'm just there for the audio people, like the people that are in their car listening to this. Don't do an underscore, do a hyphen. That's
yeah. I'm glad you got that back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to create a new gulp task, gulp.task, and then I'm going to open up parentheses. The first thing I'm going to give it is the name of this gulp task.
Yeah.
So this is a thing that you would type in the command line to run this particular task.
Or you can put it in the default task as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
In this instance, I'm not going to add a default task.
Okay.
I'm just going to add a specific task. So we're going to have to explicitly call this from command line when we
Yep.
do. So we're going to call this, give this a name. I guess we'll call it web standards. Makes sense, right?
I'd like to put underscore task on the end of that.
Okay, well then,
just so we know.
just so I
it's
forget
task.
later on when I'm doing this.
Sorry.
No worries. You just, as long as you remember, Martin.
I will be there.
So I'm going to create then an anonymous function and then close that parentheses. And then inside of this anonymous function, I'm going to add the stuff which goes and does my gulp task. So I'm going to add a return first and say gulp.src, which is the source for my files. Well, in this instance, my source is a place called index_files. Oops. Index.gulp.source, index.files. And then I want to add in this syntax, which is just going to go and loop through everything. Why can't I find the star on my keyboard?
It's there. It's 8.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I don't know why you couldn't.
I had a little mental block.
It's been there ever since you've been using a keyboard.
No, there would have been times when I've needed that, but yeah, I don't know. And then we use the pipe, which is the thing that we discussed about in the first gulp thing.
So this is this idea of taking kind of the output of one thing and making it the input to the next.
Yeah,
and
so
you keep doing that until you.
We're fundamentally saying here gulp.source. Look at every file inside of index_files, and then pipe the result, all those files basically, into my web standards plugin. So we'll say pipe, and then we'll pass it web standards, and then that.
And that's the name of the kind of variable that you've given for the plugin itself.
Yeah, well, it's this variable up here.
Yeah.
So whatever we call it there, it's going to be executing whatever's there. So it's executing our plugin with that information.
And that's why I wanted to call the task _task, you see.
Yeah, so it's different, right?
I'd have been terribly confused at this point.
Are, yeah.
And I'm easily confused.
I'm just going to add a semicolon there just to be safe, because it's JavaScript after all.
And that's how we roll.
Let's add something in there, a new file, and we'll call it fail.html.
That's a bit of a negative name, isn't it?
It is.
Think how that HTML file feels about with a name like that.
Oh well, such is life. Okay. And then I've added the fail.html in here, and I've put in a meta tag. This is a thing which says to emulate IE10.
Right.
And it should pull up this because you shouldn't really be including that to emulate IE10. Especially things like Edge, they will just completely ignore this, but it just mentions that the fact that you shouldn't be using these meta tags.
It's not good practice to have that kind of stuff in these.
No, and a lot of people add that by complete accident. I did a pull request recently on a website where they just added a meta tag to support Chrome Frame, which Chrome Frame doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And their response was, thanks for flagging this up. I didn't realize we just kind of put it in. We copied it from an old file or something like that. And often with those meta things, you just leave them in, forgetting what they're for. So this is this is another great reason for using this plugin, because it's just going to check those sorts of things and just question, well, why are you using that meta tag? Do you even really need to use that anymore?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go back to command line, so I've saved that file now. If I run the task again, Gulp-webstandards task _task.
We've got some red there.
We've got some red now.
It's good, because I was wondering, when it says tick incorrect use of CSS prefix, I was a bit confused about.
Yeah. Double negative.
Is that have we passed that or failed that? But now we know that green is good.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So red is bad. Cross. So it says use meta viewport. It gives me some information about my viewport tag. Use meta viewport tag to choose how your website will get scaled on smaller devices. So I'm not using a viewport tag on that device, on that particular HTML. And it's also saying I should use a modern doc type.
Okay, so it's picked up. And presumably as well with Gulp, you can pipe this out to a file if you wanted to log it or do something like that. It doesn't have to just be in the console like this, does it?
No, absolutely. Yeah, you could. Yeah, exactly. You can do whatever you want to do with, which is in the realms of Gulp, and that's cool.
almost anything in the world.
Yeah, there's quite a lot that you can do, and if you can't do it, you can always write a plugin.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the idea of this is that you would integrate it into your build process, and it should save you an awful lot of time. And just check up and make sure that you're doing things in the right way.
I'd like to see an IoT project that whenever there's a red thing that happens, some kind of IoT device inflicts some kind of pain on the developer. That would be quite good.
Yeah, that's just sadistic. But
but it's like it forces people to write good code.
Well, I don't think that's exactly what they're trying to go with this project. But yeah, we used to have in our old dev shop, whenever you used to check in, if you failed the build, and this obviously would, if you had Gulp as part of your build process, it would fail the build. Yeah. We used to get a big screen with our face on it, and that would remain there until someone else broke the build. Yeah. So for weeks you could be sitting there you could be the last person that broke the build, and you have your picture in the screen of shame.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's better than maybe actual physical pain.
No, like emotional pain.
Yeah. And on that positive note, we're going to leave it there for Web Hack Wednesdays. We'll see you next week when we discuss another topic on the web. Thank you very much for joining us.